Ramble vid off the top of my head. I don't really have any script in front of me. I got a Sci 10 atheist video I just watched. Trying to bleach all of the drama out of my head. But I think it's good to have a discussion in this social media platform that we have and talk about the pink elephants in the room that everyone wants to hear you talk about. But I will say this: there are no facts in this video. Only conjecture and only musings. No facts. If you're looking for facts, go somewhere else. I make very long videos all the time. They ramble on. Okay? It's going to get boring. So yeah, in the drama surrounding Tattoo Skin 72, I've had a lot of private messages come my way that were, well, they just spanned the gamut of reactions. Like, wow, I agree with you, and wow, I really disagree with you. And some of them were just posted comments, not behind the scenes, but I've got some reactions that were posted comments. One was that I conspired to release this drama in a way that would make a splash on YouTube, and I'm like, what? I wasn't even the person to release it. Didn't even talk about it in a way that was sensational, because responding to Inventor Gorilla is not sensational. I didn't say, hey guys, guess what? No. Originally I was responding to the idea that somebody might want to cover up Tattoo Skin 72's crimes. And the way that it was put out, like there was proof and evidence of that before it was mused aside. Since then, there has been some quad erat demonstrandum, such as people saying we don't know the whole story until we hear him defend himself. If we're trying this in the court of public opinion, we don't know the whole story until we hear his side. And up to this point, even though I've read a whole bunch of comments, I have not heard anyone say that we don't know the whole story until we know the victim's side. What I have seen is a lot of people assume that because we've seen the court documents, we know the victim side. We know the prosecutor's side and whatnot. And I'm going to say no. Based on my personal experience with the criminal justice system and cases such as this, I'm going to say no, we don't know that he got justice in his own eyes. We don't know whether or not he got fed up after a bunch of different things and then decided, I've had enough at the age of 16, and finally felt strong enough to say something about one instance. We don't know if it was multiple instances. We don't know if this was a one-off. But what I do know, with all of my experience in this field and working with families that go through this a lot, what I know is it's very hard to come out as a victim of the things that Tattoo Skin 72 pled to. it's very hard for those victims to finally come out. And when they're making that decision, what are some of their fears, their greatest fears in coming out? Greatest fear number one: no one's going to believe them. No one's going to believe them. They're all going to believe their attacker. They're all going to side against them. This is going to tear the family apart. You know, I can't report this person because, you know, we have this tight family. It'll just make this huge schism. And what we recently saw, those of us who had the chance to see it before the video went down, was one side of his family has, you know, his niece made a video supporting him, which is not, in my experience, uncommon. That part of the family would believe an accusation and part of them would stay in denial or not believe. So yeah, wasn't surprised that she came out like that, but some people did take it as vindication, both for their position and for Tattoo Skin 72. In her video, the niece, before it was taken down, in that video, she said something that really struck a chord in me, and that was blaming the accusation on the nephew that was the victim in the case, blaming it on his desire to not have Tattoo Skin 72 be a part of his life in an authoritative way, because he caught him surfing porn, so his computer had to be moved out into the kitchen. And also, she said that he had been having bad grades and he was just being a bad kid all around. His grades were suffering. It's been my experience that you can't draw conclusions where you don't necessarily know which way it's correlating, because most all victims of abuse like that tend to have a drop in their grades. They tend to have depression and whatnot. So correlation not meaning causation here. We don't know if the victim had bad grades and made up a story to, you know, get an authority figure out of his life, and decided that the best way to get some people to stop ragging on him for bad grades was to accuse his uncle of something that could send him to prison for a long time. Or his uncle was doing things to him and his grades suffered. The only thing that we know as fact is that somebody pled nolo contender. I believe that there's enough evidence to convict me, nolo contender. Someone pled to that and got on a sex offender registry, and we know that somebody had bad grades. Those facts didn't come from me. I don't generate facts. I read a court register of actions, and everything else is just conjecture on a lot of people's parts. But yeah, my biggest thoughts in the moment right now about this are, we don't know the whole story. Reading the court transcripts, We don't know the whole story hearing it from him. We don't know the whole story hearing it from the victim as well. Even if we had all that, we don't know the whole story because there was not a camera in the room. Another thing that the niece said was that this happened in a room where just next door over there were people in the other room and nobody woke up to sounds of struggle or whatnot. Yeah, I've actually had in my past an incident where I was in a pup tent on a campout in the Boy Scouts, and in the next tent there was a sexual assault and no one woke up for it. And clothes were not completely taken off. You know, pants were only pulled far enough down for someone's Johnson to come out and someone's buns to be sticking out for it to go in. Okay? And nobody knew for at least a day because nobody woke up to anything. And as thin as you might think the walls in some shack in Michigan are, pup tent walls are even thinner. And not everyone screams out when something happens to them. So, yeah. We could have 10 different witnesses that were in the house. We could have the victim, and we could have the person who pled to a charge. All of them tell us their story, read the court records on top of it, and we don't know anything. One last thought. Nobody fuck up anymore. Okay, and when I say this, I mean those YouTubers who are putting out content. Just don't fuck up in your life. Okay? If you stare long enough into the abyss, you know, the abyss stares back at you. And what I mean by bringing that up is we plan to put a certain amount of our life out on camera, you know, when we're talking to these cameras. But those viewers, they reach through that lens and they start taking information that you didn't necessarily want out there. And the more you put your life out there, the more they will take. And they will take more sometimes than you really want them to have. Okay? Especially if you fuck up. So, if you plan on fucking up in your life, don't be a YouTuber. Don't be on the internet, because there are some keyboard commandos out there who will make things 10 times worse for you. That's all I got. At least for this session.